if you can't take a good photo with modern equipment, then you're doing something seriously wrong. Hello and welcome to the woods. I am predominantly a wildlife photographer, so most of the time I use lenses like this. Big, heavy, long lenses. But I do take other kinds of photographs, so I take pictures occasionally. I take pictures of people, and I also take pictures of landscape, because as you can see from the woods around me, I'm often in beautiful scenes. Sometimes you see something so beautiful and so wonderful, you just think, I've got to photograph that. And of course, if you've got a great big long wildlife lens, then that is not possible. So you need different kinds of lenses. The quality of lenses. Lenses, of course, can be very expensive, and certainly if you spend more, you probably get better image quality. Well, you definitely do, actually. Yes, you get better image quality with more expensive lenses. But I maintain that you can take a good picture, possibly an award-winning picture, with a phone, and that the artistic side of photography is more important really in lots of ways than the technical side. And so getting too hung up on the technical quality of lenses is certainly, I know lots of people love to talk about it, but certainly for me is not the focus. So I'm not going to be going into that area. I'm just going to be talking about the lenses that I use, how I use them, and why I like them, basically. Oh, I'm going to have to break a spider web. Wow, look at this. I know the light's not very good, but that is one hell of a lot of mushrooms. And more down here. Yes. So I maintain fungi. The forest is full of fungi. Now, so I maintain that you can't buy bad lenses these days from the major brands. And yes, some lenses are maybe 5% better than other lenses when it comes to image quality or sharpness or whatever it is. I want you to look at the lenses that I talk about from the point of view of photographs. To me, you should judge a photographer, and you should judge a camera and lens by the photographs it takes, not by how many lens coatings it's got, or how it deals with lens flare, or all these sorts of things. Although they are important things, but really the most important thing with photography, it seems to me, is understanding your equipment, understanding its limitations, working within those limitations, and producing hopefully something beautiful within that framework, within that structure. That's what photography is about. It's not really very much about gear. It's whether people want to look at your pictures, whether people like looking at your pictures, whether your pictures say something to people. Those are the things that are important. So, whether something was shot on a Canon 5D Mark IV or Mark V, I don't think really is the salient point. So that's my thinking. You are welcome to disagree. So what lenses do I use? Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Well, so first of all, the lens that's attached to my camera most, let's sit down here, shall we? The lens that's attached to my camera most often is this, the 800mm 6.3 PF. This lens is my favourite lens. It's a fantastic lens. I am interested in wildlife photography, so I take pictures of small birds, I take pictures of distant wildlife. I try not to disturb wildlife, and for that I need a camera lens combination that's got reach. I also like being able to show people the beauty of wild animals, of nature, in good resolution. And to do that, you need a lens that brings you close to the action. However sharp your lens is, if you're too far away from the subject, and if you don't have the focal range, the focal length, then you won't be able to show that the beauty of a kingfisher or a jay or whatever it is. See the feather detail and you won't be able to see all that if you can have a very expensive lens, but if you're not close enough to the action and got a camera with a long focal range, a long focal length, then you won't be able to get that kind of photograph. And that's the kind of pictures that I like to take. I like to show people what's out there in the natural world. So 800mm is perfect for that. My next lens is the 180 to 600, also 6.3, affordable lens, I would say, flexible lens, good focal range, 180 to 600. It doesn't have, people always used to say, and I think it's true still just about, that zoom lenses don't have the same image quality as prime lenses, and that was was generally accepted 30 years ago. But I don't think that that's so much the case now. I don't think that image quality on zoom lenses, modern zoom lenses, is noticeably worse than on a prime lens. So I think the flexibility of the 180 to 600 is definitely worthwhile, worth it, because you're sacrificing an amount of image quality that nobody's going to notice. So I think for that reason it's a fantastic lens. It's also affordable, which makes it within the reach of most serious hobbyists as well as professionals. So it's a fantastic lens, and the big advantage of that 180 to 600 over this 800 is that the 800's minimum focus distance is between 4 to 5 meters, and the 180 to 600's minimum focus distance is 2 meters. So you can get pictures of insects, butterflies and things like that, flowers, with the 180 to 600, and you just can't do that, not really, with the 800. So I think you get a better magnification ratio with the 180 to 600 than you do with the 800, to be technical. So I think it's a great lens. What else do I use? So the other lenses, what else? So the next lens down, if we go down in focal range, the next lens that I use is the 70 to 200 2.8. Now that lens, I've tried using it for wildlife photography, but for me it doesn't quite have the focal range I'm looking for, so I can't get as near to the subject as I want to with that lens. But what it does have is very good image quality. It is an expensive lens, it's a high quality lens, Nikon S lens, but the 2.8, the wider aperture capability of that lens compared to my two 6.3 lenses, is that it gives me the opportunity to shoot in lower light. And so when it's dull, like in the winter months in Britain, I can still take photographs with that lens. But the thing I like about it best of all, 70 to 200 2.8, is its ability to take pictures of family, of people. I don't often take pictures, to be honest with you, of my family or anybody else's family, but I do whenever I do decide to take pictures of people, that's the lens that I prefer using. 70-200 is great for that. I think it's a fantastic portrait lens. I'm the kind of photographer, I don't like shoving a camera in people's faces, so if you've got a wider angle lens, you have to get closer to get that same effect. So, but with the 70-200, I can be at a fairly discreet distance. I mean, people still are often aware that you're taking pictures of them, but it's a little bit less invasive, I think, intrusive to their personal space, and I prefer that. So 70-200, fantastic lens. Now going but down the focal range, what's the next lens? Well, this is my one non-Nikon lens, and this is the Laowa 100mm f2.8 2x macro lens. Fantastic lens, great image quality. You can use it for general 100mm photography, but it's also got a macro capability, and a very good macro capability. It can magnify 2 times what you're seeing. So that, I think that technically means that the object is twice its size on the actual image sensor. So if you're using a modern camera, then that really gives you quite some incredible resolution when you're looking at small creatures or small objects. The only downside of it, I'd say, is that it's a manual lens, so you manually focus it, and that has tempted me to think about getting a Nikon macro lens. Nikon macro lenses only magnify to 1 times, which I think is fine, actually. Nikon cameras have a capability to automatically focus stack, so you can't use the Laowa lens to do that, because it doesn't have autofocus. So that's probably the one downside of that lens. The other thing is, if you do take pictures at 2 times magnification, you do have to think about managing light, because the larger you magnify, the darker the image becomes. So that's something that needs to be borne in mind if you're going to go down the road of the Laowa macro lens. It's a very but otherwise it's a great lens, and I love having it in my camera bag, as it were. So the next lens down is what is commonly often referred to as the kit lens, which is the f4 24-70, which is not cheap lens or a low quality lens. It's a very good quality lens, takes very good pictures, and is probably the most flexible general purpose focal range you can get. 24-70, fantastic. You can take wide angle pictures, nature, landscape, people. If I was going on holiday and I could only take one lens, I'd probably take that one. It's a very good lens, general purpose photography. And then the last lens that I own is the 40mm f2, which is probably my favourite of the wider angle lenses, because it's lightweight and small and inexpensive, and it's got an f2 aperture, so you can take pictures at night in the dark and so on. Very good lens. I mean, it's not the highest quality lens, it's not the most expensive lens, it's very affordable, but what I like about it is that if you sit it on, I use it on my Z6, if you put it on the Z6, it feels good in the hand, it balances well, it's not heavy, and it's not intrusive. So people, if you get a big lens out and point it at people, they look round. But if you have a small lens like that, it's as discreet as it's discreet as a proper camera really lens can be, I think, and I like it for that reason. But I suppose the other thing is that I often carry that lens around, or that second camera body around, with when I'm out taking wildlife, and that combination, the Z6 and the 40mm, are not too heavy. So really, ergonomics for me is more important than lots of the other considerations when you look. A couple of lenses that do tempt me are that I don't have at the moment, that I am tempted by, are the 600mm PF, which is the same basically as this lens, but 200 millimeters less. So still 3/4 of the reach of this, but being a PF lens like this one, it's quite, for its focal length, it is quite compact and portable, and that's a, you know, that's as big a consideration as all the other things, I think, when you're looking at lenses. Can you carry it around all day? Does it work for you? So yeah, so that's a lens that I'm tempted by. Then the other lens that I'm tempted by is probably the one that all wildlife photographers are tempted by, and that is the 600 f4 TC teleconverter, built-in teleconverter lens, which is a very expensive lens. It's probably the most expensive lens that Nikon does, and it's well, it is the most expensive lens that Nikon does, and it's their top of the range lens, very good quality. But the reason that I would go for that lens, if I could afford it, if I can save up the money to buy it, is because having an f4, the wider aperture, gives you the opportunity to take pictures when the light is not so good. And with these lovely 6.3 lenses that I've got, I can, most of the time I can use them out in the field, but on dull, overcast, low cloud days, as we get a lot of in Britain in the winter time, we're approaching the winter time rapidly now, of course, then really, you know, often I just look out the window and think, oh, it's just too dull. I'm not going out. I'm not going to be able to get the sorts of pictures that I'd like to photograph when the light is just that dull. And so that's what keeps me indoors, really, on those sorts of days. And you know, having an f4, an f4 long lens would give me more flexibility in that way. That's the only reason. So those are my thoughts. These are the lenses that I've used, and I hope you find the photographs interesting, and their photographs give you an impression of what kinds of pictures you can take with these different lenses, and the sort of image quality that you can expect. What you see on YouTube is not as good image quality as if I've printed it out on my printer, because YouTube does compress the file sizes and so on. And obviously it depends on what kind of device you're looking at this video on. But if you get to look at the photographs in person, as it were, I think you would be happy with the image quality of all of these lenses. I really do. Some of them are top of the line lenses, some of them are more affordable lenses, but I would say these days image quality is much less of an issue as it once was. And of course we've also got some very good software these days, software tools to overcome some of the image quality issues, such as noise, removing noise from pictures and so on. So I hope this has been useful. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for joining me here in the woods today on a lovely day, lovely autumn day in the woods, and I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.